Chapter 1679. I have already revealed it to Miss Bailey. I believe that with Miss Bailey's intelligence and wisdom, she will definitely understand. Gu Taihong spoke slowly. At that time, he noticed the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang knew all of this. Yu Linfeng nodded. In that case, it's fine. Go and investigate the process of how Bailey Girl and Di Beichen met. He was really curious about the disciple he had chosen. In the ruins, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance had always been very good. Whether it was her perception, potential, or endurance, they were all much better than ordinary cultivators. Just the relationship between her and the Lan family had already surprised him. He had already learned from Bailey Hongzhuang that she had been stranded in a small empire. Logically speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang, who grew up in a small empire, should not have had the opportunity to know Di Beichen. However, his disciple was really not an ordinary person. Even if the Lan family had taken away her colorful divine pearl, she had become the wife of the young sect master of Tiangang sect and had him as her master. He suddenly realized that Bailey Hongzhuang was a very lucky person. Yes. Gu Taihong bowed. After seeing that Yu Linfeng had no other orders, he left. After Mo Yunjue returned to Shitian Pavilion, his subordinates told him about the important things that had happened in the past 2 years. In Shitian Pavilion, different positions had different authorities. The most important authority was naturally in the hands of Mo Yunjue. Since Mo Yunjue participated in the assessment competition, Shitian Pavilion had been accepting ordinary tasks. However, for some very difficult and involved many tasks, they had to wait for the young master to come back and ask for instructions before they could make a decision. As soon as Mo Yunjue returned to Shitian Pavilion, he fell into a busy state. He had stayed in the assessment competition for a long time. The matters of Shitian Pavilion had piled up like a mountain. Speaking of which, participating in the assessment competition was the most willful thing he had done so far. However, it was all worth it. Being able to spend so much time with Hongzhuang was already the best thing that could happen to him. Young Master, Tiangang sect's young master Di Beichen has also issued a mission. When Mo Yunjue, who was originally indifferent, heard the 3 words Di Beichen, his eyes suddenly narrowed, and he looked sharply at the speaker. What mission did Di Beichen issue? Feeling Mo Yunjue's sharp gaze, the cultivator could not help but be stunned for a moment. Then, he immediately handed the letter to Di Beichen. Di Beichen opened the letter. The content was simple. Di Beichen confirmed that Lan Yunxiao and his wife were imprisoned in the Yu clan. He hoped that they could help him find out where they were imprisoned. After seeing Lan Yunxiao's name, Mo Yunjue's expression couldn't help but change. The Lan clan had never interacted with Tiangang sect. It was very strange that Di Beichen suddenly wanted to investigate the Lan clan situation. However, Mo Yunjue quickly thought of the jade pendant on Bailey Hongzhuang's chest. Di Beichen, Lan clan, Hongzhuang, Lan clan's keepsake. Mo Yunjue's mind quickly flashed with these keywords. Soon, his deep black eyes gradually flashed with understanding. However, he was still shocked. As the young master of Shitian Pavilion, he had access to countless information. Often, he would only need to look at a few keywords to know the truth. Chapter 1680. Since even Di Beichen couldn't find out, it meant that the Yu clan had sealed this information very tightly. The matter of Lan Yunxiao and his wife was very sensational, but the Lan clan had sealed the information very well. Almost no one knew about it except for a few people who were very well informed. Lan Yunxiao and his wife's daughter was forcefully robbed of the rainbow pearl and was on the verge of death. The instigator was Lan Yunxiao's elder brother, Lan Jinghuang. Currently, the Lan clan's proudest young cultivator was Lan Qingyan, but those who knew the truth were somewhat disdainful. Because the reason why Lan Qingyan was able to achieve such results was undoubtedly through plundering her younger sister's things to reach this step. However, Lan Qingyan obviously didn't care about this. These years, As Lan Qingyan's strength grew stronger, her attitude also became more and more arrogant, faintly causing some people to be dissatisfied. However, Lan Qingyan's strength and talent were indeed shocking. Even if some people were dissatisfied, they wouldn't say it out loud. Because no one was willing to offend a strong opponent. The Yu clan had actually imprisoned Lan Yunxiao and his wife. Once this news spread, the entire aristocratic world would be shocked. Lan Yunxiao and his wife had disappeared for many years. Ever since that incident, they had disappeared without a trace. No one would have thought that they were actually imprisoned by the Yu clan. Bewitching cared so much about Lan Yunxiao and his wife. Obviously, this was an extremely important matter to him. In addition, Heng Zhuang had the Lan clan's jade pendant. From how much Heng Zhuang cared about the jade pendant, he could determine that Heng Zhuang was related to the Lan clan. Heng Zhuang wasn't General Bailey's daughter. This was something he already knew. He remembered that Heng Zhuang had always been an extremely famous waste in Fengbo country. The reason she became a waste was because her dantian was broken. It was because her dantian was broken that Heng Zhuang couldn't cultivate and led such a miserable life. Lan Yunxiao and his wife's daughter was forcefully robbed of the rainbow pearl by the Yu clan. Her dantian was destroyed and she was on the verge of death. Lan Yunxiao and his wife had to beg the Yu clan for help when they were walking. Once all these things were connected, Mo Yunjue already knew the truth. However, he had never thought that Heng Zhuang's real identity would be like this. At this moment, Mo Yunjue finally understood why Heng Zhuang would reveal such an expression when he looked at the jade pendant and asked if Heng Zhuang was related to the Lan family. With Heng Zhuang's identity, once her true identity was exposed, it would cause a lot of problems. Lan Jinghuang and the Yu clan might even try to kill him. It was because of this that Heng Zhuang was so wary of him. This was not because Heng Zhuang did not trust him, but because this matter involved too many things. After understanding this, Mo Yunjue could not help but feel guilty. He did not know the reason behind this, but he felt that Heng Zhuang did not trust him enough. This was really wrong. However, Mo Yunjue could not help but feel sorry for Bailey Heng Zhuang. Heng Zhuang's past was already very tragic. He never thought that her real identity would be even more pitiful. He clearly knew that after this incident, many people lamented how pitiful the child who had her rainbow pearl stolen was. She was supposed to be a genius, but because of this persecution, she lost her life. Chapter 1681. Mo Yunjue's eyes became colder and colder as he thought of what Heng Zhuang had suffered all these years. Heng Zhuang's suffering was all because of the Yu clan and Lan Jinghuang's family. These bastards were really despicable. They even had the heart to hurt an infant. Moreover, Heng Zhuang was Lan Jinghuang's younger brother's daughter. Lan Jinghuang's family was worse than pigs and dogs. Damn it! Mo Yunjue clenched his fists. His handsome and cold face was filled with murderous intent. These bastards actually dared to treat Heng Zhuang like this. He would make them pay a heavy price for what they had done in the past. Seeing Mo Yunjue's sudden expression, the cultivators of Shitian Pavilion couldn't help but be surprised. They hadn't seen their young master with such an expression for a long time. Every time their young master showed such an expression, it meant that someone was going to be unlucky. Could it be the Tian Gang sect's young sect master, Bewitching? Everyone kept thinking. After all, this letter belonged to Bewitching. Now that they knew that Bewitching was their young master's love rival, it was normal for them to have conflicts. Seeing their young master's angry expression, could it be that their young master had a direct confrontation with Bewitching? Thinking of this, the cultivators of Shitian Pavilion became excited. They were all people who wished for the world to be in chaos. For a long time, there had never been a woman who could move their young master's heart. Now that their young master finally found a woman he liked, they naturally couldn't let her go. Go and check on the Yu clan for me. Check if the Yu clan has a dungeon or some other secret place. Mo Yunjue's voice was heavy. Since Di Beichen had asked them to investigate this matter, then Di Beichen must have confirmed that Hong Zhuang's parents were still alive and had been imprisoned by the Yu clan all these years. As soon as he thought about how the Yu clan had harmed Lan Yunxiao's family to such an extent, they even imprisoned them, he was unable to restrain his anger. At this moment, he finally understood why Hong Zhuang was so desperate to cultivate. Back then in the ruins, how dangerous was the inheritance. Even he had fainted under that kind of pressure, but Hong Zhuang had persevered. Her perseverance was simply astonishing. From the looks of it, Hong Zhuang was doing her best to increase her strength. That was because she had to increase her strength in order to save her parents. Thinking of Hong Zhuang's usual indifferent appearance, it was hard to imagine that she was under so much pressure. The more Mo Yunjue thought about it, the more he felt that what he had done was not enough. Hong Zhuang had suffered so much in her heart. He was afraid that other than Di Beichen, no one else knew about it. He would do his best to help Hong Zhuang. Only by rescuing Hong Zhuang's parents as soon as possible could Hong Zhuang be at ease. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, the Shirtian Pavilion's cultivators were a little surprised. Why was he suddenly connected to the Yu clan? Their young master had never been in contact with the Yu clan. However, they had always known how powerful their young master was. The moment their young master gave the order, they didn't think about anything else and immediately retreated. They didn't need to ask for any reason. All they needed to do was to get an accurate answer as soon as possible. The Shirtian Pavilion's investigation would definitely not allow any mistakes. Chapter 1682. Go and investigate the Lan family's Lan Yunxiao's matter. Investigate it carefully and bring me all the useful information. Mo Yunjue's handsome brows knitted tightly. At that time, he only knew a little about this matter, but he wasn't clear enough. Now that he knew that this matter was related to Hong Zhuang, he naturally had to investigate it thoroughly. He had to understand everything that had happened in order to know how to help Hong Zhuang to the greatest extent. This subordinate obeys. The man bowed and immediately walked out. As long as it was something the young master instructed them to do, they wouldn't have any doubts. After everyone left, Mo Yunjue looked at the bright moon outside the window. His eyes flickered with cold killing intent. This group of people who were worse than beasts actually dared to do such an unforgivable thing to Hong Zhuang. He would definitely make them pay the price. After thinking carefully, Mo Yunjue suddenly understood why Di Beichen would let Hong Zhuang participate in the assessment alone. Obviously, they already knew about the mystery of Hong Zhuang's birth long before the assessment started. Di Beichen had probably been investigating this matter all this time. According to the information from his subordinates, Di Beichen had already found the Heaven Splitter Tower for some time. However, because he wasn't in the Heaven Splitter Tower, he didn't respond to this mission. This meant that Di Beichen had always been concerned about Hong Zhuang. He had always been busy with Hong Zhuang's matters. Hong Zhuang participated in the assessment to increase her strength, while Di Beichen took advantage of this time to think of a way to save Hong Zhuang's parents. However, because the Yu clan was too secretive, Di Beichen had never been able to find out the exact location of the Lan family's parents. As a medical family, the Yu clan's strength couldn't be underestimated. They were far more powerful than ordinary cultivation families. For so many years, many seriously ill cultivators had sought the Yu clan's help. It was precisely because of this that the Yu clan could be said to have disciples all over the world. Even if Di Beichen was the Tiangang sect's young sect leader, it would not be easy for him to deal with the Yu clan. Therefore, Di Beichen had his hands and feet tied. He could only think of a way to save Lan Yunxiao and his wife without disturbing the Yu family. As long as Lan Yunxiao and his wife were rescued, everything else would become much simpler because they wouldn't have any more worries. Although Tiangang sect's strength was strong, they were not as good as Shirtian Tower in terms of intelligence. The Shirtian Pavilion's information network could be said to have covered the entire Xingxian continent. As long as it was information they wanted, they would definitely be able to find it. However, the Yu family's roots were so complicated. Adding on the fact that Lan Yunxiao was originally an extremely famous figure in the Xingxian continent, they would definitely do it secretly if they wanted to imprison Lan Yunxiao. Therefore, it would take a certain amount of time to investigate all of this. Similarly, they couldn't investigate this matter personally. They could only find out from the mouths of the Yu clan members. It was obviously impossible to find out such a secretive topic in a short period of time. However, with their methods, they would definitely be able to obtain this information after spending a period of time. Thinking of this, Mo Yunjue decided to send a letter back to Di Beichen. He wanted to let Di Beichen know his attitude and not act blindly without thinking. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went on a scenic tour. They were very happy. Occasionally, they would play around like an ordinary couple. No one would have thought that Di Beichen was the Tian Gang sect's famous young sect leader. Chapter 1683. Under such a playful situation, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were very happy every day. For them, to be able to live happily together and watch the clouds roll by was the happiest life. However, they couldn't have such a life now. This was because they still had too many things to do. Only after completing everything that needed to be done would they be able to live such a life. There were some responsibilities that they had to bear. Such happy days passed very quickly. Unknowingly, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had arrived at the boundary of Limitless Palace. Not far ahead is Limitless Palace. Di Beichen introduced while holding Bailey Hongzhuang with his right hand and pointing to the mountains in front with his left hand. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked ahead. Previously, there was a dense mountain range and she couldn't see the existence of the sect at all. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't find it strange. Without thinking, she knew that this was Limitless Palace's trick, just like Tian Gang sect. In this way, only cultivators who knew where Limitless Palace was would go there. Ordinary people wouldn't find it at all. How are we going to go in later? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen doubtfully. This wasn't Tian Gang's sect. Di Beichen couldn't remove this enchantment, so how were they going to go in? Di Beichen's lips curled into a devilish smile. Although we can't see the situation of Limitless Palace here, the disciples guarding the gate can see us. We just need to ask them to pass the message. As the young sect master of Tian Gang sect, he often ran between various sections. He was very familiar with this kind of situation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Her beautiful face was filled with a beautiful smile. I see. The enchantment after 1,000 years had improved a lot compared to 1,000 years ago. It was very convenient. Hey Mu, follow. Di Beichen suddenly said. Previously, because he wanted to be alone with Hongzhuang, He Mu, and the three beasts had been keeping a certain distance from them. Now that they were about to enter Limitless Palace, He Mu should also appear. Otherwise, they would be trapped outside Limitless Palace later. Hearing Di Beichen's words, He Mu quickly appeared beside Di Beichen. Yes, young master. Seeing He Mu appear, Di Beichen nodded. The three beasts then continued to move forward. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at He Mu and the three beasts were getting along with each other, and her beautiful eyes were filled to the breast. It had to be said that having He Mu by Di Beichen's side was really an excellent thing. Di Beichen, have you been to Limitless Palace before? Seeing Di Beichen's familiar look, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. In the past, I came here with my master. However, I only came here once, so I'm not familiar with it. Di Beichen said slowly. Between the various sects, other than their mortal enemies, most of the other sects had dealings with each other. Many times, the various sects would organize some competitions to promote the enthusiasm of their disciples. Only in a competitive environment, cultivators would be able to work harder. This was because every once in a while, the various sects would organize some competitions. Especially those sects that had a close relationship with each other, they would organize it together. Tian Gang sect and Limitless Palace weren't very close, but their relationship wasn't bad. Chapter 1684. Not long after, Di Beichen stopped his footsteps and spoke to the mountain in front of him. Tian Gang sects Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang are here to see the palace master. Please pass on the message. Following Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that the barrier in front of her suddenly disappeared. A towering mountain appeared in front of her. On top of the mountain, a golden palace stood impressively. Looking at the style of the palace, Bailey Hongzhuang could recognize that this was Limitless Palace. The ruins in the small world also had the same style. Although the size and layout were different, the style was extremely similar. Just like how every cultivator had a certain style, the things they did also had the same characteristics. Young Master D, please wait a moment. We will pass on the message immediately. The disciples guarding the mountain gate of Limitless Palace bowed when they saw Di Beichen. They didn't dare to be negligent at all. Many thanks. Di Beichen smiled faintly. One of the disciples guarding the mountain gate quickly walked towards the top of Limitless Palace. As the young sect master of Tian Gang sect, Di Beichen's reputation was extremely resounding. However, they didn't expect that Di Beichen would suddenly come to Limitless Palace. It really surprised them. No matter what, he couldn't be negligent. He had to immediately report this matter to the palace master. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen calmly waited at the same place. They believed that the palace master would definitely meet them. Only He Mu stood at the same place in puzzlement. He didn't understand why the young master and young madam would suddenly come to Limitless Palace. In his impression, although Tian Gang sect and Limitless Palace had a friendly relationship, they didn't have frequent interactions. The young master had never said that he was coming to Tian Gang sect. Now that he suddenly appeared here, it was a bit strange. Moreover, from the looks of it, the young madam was also very interested in Limitless Palace. But why did they come here? The three beasties' gaze also fell on Limitless Palace's building. They naturally knew the purpose of their master coming here. They only hoped that their master could become the successor of Limitless Palace. That would be the best. They understood Gu Taihong's intention when the assessment had ended. No matter what, master must make a trip to Limitless Palace. Not long after, the disciple who went to inform Di Beichen came back. He bowed to Di Beichen and said, "Young Master D, Miss Bailey, the palace lord invites you." Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang cupped their hands towards the disciple who was guarding the mountain gate. Then, they slowly walked towards the top of Limitless Palace. After Di Beichen and his group left, the disciples guarding the mountain gate couldn't help but talk. I wonder why the young sect master of Tiangang sect suddenly came to our place. I don't know. I've never heard of this before. However, I have heard before that the young lord of Tiangang sect is powerful and handsome. Today, it is really extraordinary. The woman beside Di Beichen is also very outstanding. But I seem to have heard her name somewhere before. It sounds very familiar. A man frowned. When he heard the name, he felt that he had heard it before. But after thinking for a long time, he couldn't remember when he had heard it. Bailey Hongzhuang, it seems to be the name of the first cultivator in this assessment. That's right. It's her. Chapter 1685. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen slowly walked towards the top of Limitless Palace. If anyone was here, they would notice that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen seemed to be walking very slowly. However, their speed was actually very fast. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had already arrived at Limitless Palace. In their line of sight, a magnificent hall appeared in their line of sight. Compared to the other sects which were majestic and astonishing, Limitless Palace gave people a special kind of beauty and charm which left a deep impression on people. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a shallow smile. At this moment, looking at Limitless Palace in front of her, she had a very familiar feeling. Di Beichen noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to be very happy. His eyebrows were also filled with a touch of joy. As long as Hongzhuang was happy, he would be happy. With the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, the gaze of Limitless Palace's disciples fell on them. Limitless Palace's management had always been strict. Ordinary people were not allowed to enter. Therefore, when the disciples saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the 3 people and 3 beasts, they couldn't help but be surprised. Who are they? Why did they appear in Limitless Palace? I don't know. They are not the cultivators that Elder Gu recruited this time. That man seems to be the young sect master of Tiangang sect. I have seen him before when he came to the sect with the sect master of Tiangang sect. Among the cultivators present, there were people who had seen a lot. They immediately recognized Di Beichen's identity. As Di Beichen's identity was revealed, it set off a huge uproar among the Limitless Palace's disciples. He is the young and promising young sect master of Tiangang sect. Then could the woman beside him be Han Xiling? Hearing Han Xiling's name, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression couldn't help but change a little. In the end, Han Xiling died in her hands. Di Beichen obviously knew about this news. However, ever since Di Beichen brought her back from the assessment competition, Di Beichen never mentioned anything about Han Xiling. Seeing that Di Beichen didn't mention it, she naturally wouldn't mention it. She was afraid that Di Beichen already knew the reason behind Han Xiling's death. Because he didn't want the situation to become awkward, Di Beichen never mentioned it. However, she believed that after going to Tiangang sect, Han Hongyi would definitely ask this question first. To Di Beichen, she would tell the truth, but to Han Hongyi, she would not. Because she wouldn't give Han Xian any reason to attack her. Just when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen arrived at Limitless Palace and were thinking about where to meet Yulin Feng, a familiar figure appeared in their line of sight. Young Sect Master Di, Miss Bailey, you're here. Gu Taihong's face was filled with a thick smile. After he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen came to Limitless Palace together, he immediately rushed over. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang understood his meaning. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang came so quickly. It was really satisfying. Gu Taihong bowed to Di Beichen. Although he was older than Di Beichen's status was much higher than him. Elder Gu. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed to Gu Taihong. Di Beichen's status was unusual, but she was just an ordinary disciple in front of Gu Taihong. Chapter 1686. Gu Taihong was shocked. Bailey Hongzhuang was the young palace master of Limitless Palace. How could she bow to him? Although this was only the second time he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he had been following the palace master for a long time. He understood the palace master's personality. Since the palace master had decided to let Bailey Hongzhuang be the successor of Limitless Palace, this decision would not change. The palace master was a mysterious figure in Xingxian continent. As long as the palace master made a decision, there would never be any problems. Even though the palace master seemed to do as he pleased when making a decision, as if he never cared about it, but in reality, every decision he made was carefully considered. Since the palace master chose Bailey Hongzhuang, there must be a reason for it. With regards to the palace master's decision, he only had one thought: obey. Seeing Gu Taihong's action, Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked for a moment. She couldn't help but ask, Elder Gu, what are you doing? Gu Taihong shook his head, you can't bow to me. Di Beichen understood after seeing Gu Taihong's attitude. Gu Taihong was an important figure in Limitless Palace. Other than Palace Master Yu, Gu Taihong's position was the highest. However, Gu Taihong didn't dare to accept Hongzhuang's bow. Just from this, it was enough for him to judge many things. It seemed that Hongzhuang was right. Palace Master Yu really intended to let Hongzhuang be the young Palace Master of Limitless Palace. Otherwise, Gu Taihong wouldn't have such an attitude. He Mu was stunned after seeing Gu Taihong's attitude. Could it be that Elder Gu knew the young madam's identity and did this? Although many people already knew that the young madam and young master were in love, everyone thought that the young madam was young master's fiancée. Logically speaking, Elder Gu wouldn't be like this. When the cultivators of Limitless Palace saw this scene, they were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe what they saw. Elder Gu was the elder with the highest position in Limitless Palace. Why would she not dare to accept Bailey Hongzhuang's salute? This was a little too strange. Is that woman in white Han Xiling? Even if she's Han Xiling, Elder Gu doesn't need to be so courteous, right? I don't think it's Han Xiling. I heard that Han Xiling likes to wear green clothes, not white. It can't be her. Who is this woman? His status is actually so high. The disciples looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. They had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang before. In addition, the cultivators who participated in the assessment had all returned to their respective clans and were not in Limitless Palace. Therefore, no one in Limitless Palace knew Bailey Hongzhuang. Since you're already here, why don't we go and see the Palace Lord first? Gu Taihong's face was brimming with a warm and amiable smile as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked slowly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching nodded. That's good. They came here today to see Palace Lord Yu. Only after seeing Palace Lord Yu, they could decide on their next plan. Gu Taihong nodded slightly and immediately led Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching inside. Chapter 1687. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others disappeared from their sight, the cultivators of Limitless Palace were in an uproar. Forget about the young master of Tiangang's sect, that white-robed girl is really a big shot. I rarely see Elder Gu being so respectful to someone. It's as if she's a very important person. As far as I know, the most outstanding girl in the younger generation is Lan Qingyan from the Lan family. Could that white-robed girl be Lan Qingyan? Stop joking. No matter who that white-robed girl is, she's definitely not Lan Qingyan. Why? You'll know after staying in Limitless Palace for a long time. The Palace Lord has never liked the Lan family. There has never been a cultivator from the Lan family in our Limitless Palace. This news is considered a publicly acknowledged secret in our Limitless Palace. It's best if you don't mention the Lan family. Hearing this, a surprised expression appeared on the faces of the disciples. They didn't know there was such a thing. It seemed that they had to be careful not to mention this aspect in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang followed behind Gu Taihong as they walked in Limitless Palace. The entire Limitless Palace was pale gold in color. Every decoration was meticulously done. At a glance, it gave off a beautiful feeling. Although it was dazzling, it gave off a sense of approachability. It gave off a strange feeling, but one couldn't help but admit that it gave off a good impression. Wow, the environment here is so similar to the ancient ruins. Xiao Hei couldn't help but sigh. Thinking back to when she first entered the ancient ruins in the small world, her mind was shocked. She didn't expect that after coming to Limitless Palace, she would realize that the decorations were very similar. This should be Palace Lord Yu's style. It's beautiful. Baisher looked around happily. When his master entered the ancient ruins, he was in the midst of breaking through and didn't see everything in the ancient ruins. After that, he kept listening to Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai talking about the various things that happened at that time. He couldn't see it with his own eyes, so he felt a little depressed. He regretted that he had to break through during that time and missed such a good opportunity to fight side by side with his master. He didn't expect to see this scene in Limitless Palace. Although it wasn't an ancient ruin, he could roughly understand the situation in the ancient ruins. Limitless Palace's layout is really special. It makes one yearn for it, Xiao Bai said with a smile. The buildings of each sect gave people a different feeling. Tiangang Zone was more shocking, majestic and bright, showing justice and atmosphere. On the other hand, Limitless Palace gave off a sense of elegance, rigor, charm, and solemnity. Looking at the scene in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but think of her master. A man like her master, this was really in line with his style. Limitless Palace was very big. Even with Gu Taihong leading the way, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others still had to walk for a long time before arriving at Limitless Palace's conference hall. When they reached the entrance of the meeting hall, Gu Taihong smiled and said, "Young Sect Master D, Miss Bailey, the Palace Lord is here." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. As Gu Taihong opened the door of the meeting hall, she and Di Beichen walked in together. Before entering, Di Beichen gave He Mu a look. He Mu immediately understood and stayed outside the meeting hall. Chapter 1688. Discussion Hall. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked in, they saw that the place was still covered in a faint golden color. It was very spacious and bright, and it felt very comfortable. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were obviously not in the mood to pay attention to this. Their gazes fell on the white figure at the front of the discussion hall. They saw Yu Linfeng wearing a white robe. His elegant and handsome face had an elegant and calm smile. His calm expression was full of wisdom and indifference. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had only seen a wisp of Yu Linfeng's spiritual sense in the ruins. Now that she saw Yu Linfeng in person, she only felt that he was extraordinarily handsome. So far, she had seen many men with extraordinary looks in this world. For example, Di Beichen was handsome and not annoying, Mo Yunjue was deep and resolute, Gong Shaoqing was cold and icy, and Dong Fangyu was sunny and charming. However, Yu Linfeng gave people the same feeling as them. His whole body exuded a kind of elegance and grace. His handsome face was gentle and calm, as if he was calm and collected. Even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, he would not bat an eyelid. Perhaps only Yu Linfeng, with his strength and experience, could have this kind of feeling. No matter who it was, they would have to admit that Yu Linfeng was an extremely charming man. After Yu Linfeng saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, his calm and collected face slowly raised a trace of a smile. Previously, when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang in the ruins, he felt that his disciple's appearance was extremely outstanding. Ordinary men simply could not match her. Now that he saw Di Beichen standing beside Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that the two were extremely compatible. Standing together, they were a pair of jade. He had seen Han Xiling before, but Han Xiling and Di Beichen didn't match well when they stood together. This was because Han Xiling was not good enough for Di Beichen. "Greetings, Palace Lord Yu." Di Beichen took the lead and bowed to Yu Linfeng. Although he hadn't met Yu Linfeng many times, Yu Linfeng was a famous figure in the Xingxian continent. In his heart, he greatly admired Yu Linfeng. The fact that Yu Linfeng had reached this point was already a legend. Many people were curious and admired him. He had never thought that he would meet Yu Linfeng under such circumstances. The fate in this world was truly magical. "Greetings, Master." Bailey Hongzhuang bowed respectfully. Ever since she received Yu Linfeng's inheritance in the ruins, Yu Linfeng was already her master. Regardless of whether she would become the successor of Limitless Palace, Yu Linfeng would always be her respected master. "Young Sect Master D, I never thought that I would meet you today." Yu Linfeng smiled faintly. He didn't have the majesty and pressure of other sect masters. Instead, he was like a spring breeze, giving people an indescribable feeling of comfort. This junior also never thought of it. Di Beichen cupped his hands. If it wasn't for Hongzhuang telling him, he wouldn't have believed that such a thing would happen. Yu Linfeng's gaze turned to Bailey Hongzhuang. "Little girl Bailey, your results in the assessment competition surprised me." He had long felt that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't bad. As long as she worked hard, her future would be limitless. However, he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would give him such a surprise in the assessment competition. It was truly shocking. Chapter 1689. After cultivating for such a long time on the stairway to heaven, her strength was able to break through again and again. After obtaining the rainbow pearl, her strength increased again. With the leap in strength, whether it was hunting monsters or dealing with cultivators, it was much easier than before. Moreover, after integrating with the rainbow pearl, she discovered the magical aspect of the rainbow pearl. It was no wonder that the Lan family valued the cultivators who possessed the rainbow pearls so much. This was a special inheritance that belonged to the Lan family. After obtaining the rainbow pearl, not only was the rainbow origin energy stronger than ordinary origin energy, but the cultivation speed was also much faster than usual. Under such an increase, the cultivator's strength would definitely be stronger than ordinary cultivators. The reason why Lan Qingyan could achieve such results today was inseparable from the rainbow pearl. Even if a cultivator with average cultivation talent obtained the rainbow pearl, his strength would be able to catch up with a genius cultivator. If it was a highly talented cultivator, his cultivation speed was simply unattainable by ordinary cultivators. She did not know how Lan Qingyan's cultivation talent was, but since Lan Qingyan could achieve such results, her talent should not be bad. Yu Linfeng glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's body was surrounded by a special energy that prevented others from detecting her cultivation, he could still feel a little from Bailey Hongzhuang's aura. Compared to when he first saw her in the ruins, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength had obviously increased by a lot. The increase in strength was much higher than he had imagined. Even with the help of the rainbow pearl, there would not be such a huge increase in strength. After discovering this, Yu Linfeng was also a little surprised. It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang was more outstanding than he had imagined. Her talent was probably even more powerful. He also understood that any cultivator who could possess the seven-colored divine pearl would have outstanding talent. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength could increase to such a level in such a short period of time. If it was not due to other opportunities, then it was due to some special means. However, he did not intend to find out about these. Everyone would have their own secrets. Although he and Bailey Hongzhuang had not known each other for long, he could already see through Bailey Hongzhuang's character. His eyesight had always been very accurate. Just from Bailey Hongzhuang's current conversation, he could tell. It seemed that Bewitching's eyesight was also very good. He could find his disciple in the vast sea of people and did not care about Bailey Hongzhuang's original identity at all. This was a pair of discerning eyes. What he hated most were those fellows who talked about equal social status. You don't need to be so humble. How much I have helped you. Yu Linfeng's. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's, but she did not answer him. The reason why her strength could increase so much was partly because of the inheritance she had received in the ancient ruins, and partly because of the existence of the Door of Darkness. The time in the desert world was much longer than the outside world. She would go to the desert world to cultivate whenever she had something to do. As a result, her cultivation time was much longer than ordinary cultivators. Moreover, not only could she increase her cultivation in the desert world, but she could also increase her strength and speed. If her cultivation speed was not fast enough in such a situation, it would be terrible. Chapter 1690. Yu Linfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and then looked at Bewitching. His deep and bright eyes were filled with wisdom. Since young sect master D and Bailey Lass are here together, I believe Bailey Lass has already told you everything. Although this was the first time he met Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching, but from Gu Taihong's description, he knew that Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang's relationship was extremely strong. The assessment competition lasted for 2 years. It wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. The two of them had been separated for such a long time, but when they met again, they still helped each other in difficult times without any problems. Just this point alone was enough to prove how good their relationship was. If their relationship wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't be able to endure 2 years. What's more, with Di Beichen's condition, it was unknown how many women were around him. For so many years, other than Han Xiling, he had never heard of any other woman related to Di Beichen. Therefore, he was very optimistic about Di Beichen. Since the two of them had such a good relationship, Bailey Hongzhuang told Di Beichen about this matter to clear things up. If it wasn't for Di Beichen bringing Bailey Hongzhuang along, he was afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't know the exact location of Limitless Palace. Following Yu Linfeng's recording, Di Beichen nodded his head, that's right. There was no need to hide this matter. With Yu Linfeng's intelligence and wisdom, he must have seen through everything. Bailey Lass chose to join Tiangang's sect instead of Limitless Palace. What are her plans? Yu Linfeng spoke slowly. Since Bailey Hongzhuang was going to become the successor of Limitless Palace, then she would naturally have to stay in Limitless Palace. However, under the circumstances at that time, he could understand the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang chose Tiangang's sect. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I plan to come and see Master first. She wasn't clear about the current situation. The reason why she came to Limitless Palace was to make plans for what would happen next. Hearing this, Yu Linfeng already understood the meaning of Bailey Hongzhuang's words. You are my disciple. When the time comes, you will naturally take over Limitless Palace. Yu Linfeng's voice was refined and magnetic. However, it's not bad for you to stay in Tiangang's sect now. It's not a bad choice for you to come to Limitless Palace after you've achieved some results in Tiangang's sect. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had been separated for such a long time because of the assessment. If they came to Limitless Palace right after the assessment ended, the two of them would undoubtedly be separated again. As Bailey Hongzhuang's master, he naturally didn't want to affect the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes were quietly filled with doubt, and she looked at Yu Linfeng strangely. Master, what do you mean? You have just reunited with Di Beichen. If I were to ask you to come to Limitless Palace now, you would naturally be unwilling. You can cultivate in Tiangang's sect for now. However, half a year later, you will have to cultivate with me for 3 months. If you want to become the young palace master of Limitless Palace, you still have a lot of areas to improve. Yu Linfeng's face was filled with a faint smile. He was very satisfied with the disciple he had chosen. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, talent, and perception were all good. However, if she wanted to become the successor of Limitless Palace, there was still a certain gap. Chapter 1691. After hearing Yu Linfeng's words, Di Beichen's deep and enchanting eyes were filled with amazement. Yu Linfeng's attitude was already very obvious. He intended to nurture Hongzhuang as the successor of Limitless Palace. This situation was far simpler and smoother than he had imagined. Yu Linfeng did not put on any airs from the start to the end. On the contrary, he was very considerate of Hongzhuang. Even though he knew that Yu Linfeng's temper had always been very good, but this was still beyond his expectations. However, from Yu Linfeng's expression, he could tell that Yu Linfeng really thought highly of Hongzhuang. Thinking of this, Di Beichen's eyes couldn't help but soften a little. Hongzhuang was indeed a magical girl. No matter if it was luck or other things, she could always bring unspeakable surprises to people. Yu Linfeng had chosen the successor of Limitless Palace just like that. According to normal times, this was simply impossible, but it just had to happen to Hongzhuang. After knowing Yu Linfeng's attitude, Di Beichen's initial worries were completely put down. Obviously, Yu Linfeng was very loving towards Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was touched. She didn't expect that her master would put himself in her shoes and think for her. Other than that, she was also blushing a little. It seemed that Elder Gu had already told her master about her relationship with Beichen. Thank you, master. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed respectfully. Her exquisite and beautiful face was filled with sincerity and gratitude. Since her master thought so highly of her, she would definitely do her best. Yu Linfeng raised his right hand slightly, indicating that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to be so reserved. Young sect master Di, since your relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang is so good, I also hope that you can take good care of her. Come to think of it, you should know about her background. As soon as these words came out, Di Beichen's eyes suddenly changed. He looked at Yu Linfeng in surprise. He did not know that Yu Linfeng also knew about Hongzhuang's past. Bailey Hongzhuang was also a little surprised. She did not expect her master to suddenly mention this matter. However, on second thought, Bailey Hongzhuang understood. Her master had already known about her past when they were in the ruins. Naturally, he knew that she wanted revenge. His master had chosen to tell Bewitching about this because he wanted to understand Bewitching's feelings. Come to think of it, master did this because he was worried about her. In fact, she had never thought that her master would take such good care of her. From the beginning when her master helped her fuse with the rainbow divine pearl to the decision to nurture her into the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace, everything happened too suddenly. Originally, she was still a little worried that her master might change his mind. Now, it seemed that all her worries were unnecessary. Her master had already thought of everything. He was willing to help her take revenge. Speaking of which, her master was also her elder. After all, they were both cultivators of the Lan family. As the inheritor of the Lan family's rainbow divine pearl, she should have an extremely high position in the Lan family. In fact, before Lan Jingquang and his family extended their evil claws to her, their family's position in the Lan family was still pretty good. It was only because of this incident that they fell to their current state. But what exactly happened to her master that made him hate the Lan family so much? She couldn't understand. Perhaps one day, she would find out the reason behind this. Chapter 1692. Don't worry, Palace Master Yu. I will take good care of Heng Zhuang. Bewitching looked serious. He understood that Yu Linfeng was speaking as Heng Zhuang's master. Even if Yu Linfeng didn't remind him, he would take good care of Heng Zhuang. Because Heng Zhuang was his life. The change in Bewitching's expression didn't escape Yu Linfeng's eyes. After seeing Bewitching's expression, Yu Linfeng was a little surprised. It seemed that Bewitching didn't just like Bailey Heng Zhuang. As a man, he could tell Bewitching's sincerity from Bewitching's behavior. If that's the case, then there's no problem. Yu Linfeng smiled faintly and turned to Bailey Heng Zhuang. Bailey girl, I have something to discuss with young Master D. Hearing this, Bailey Heng Zhuang was slightly stunned and couldn't help but look at Bewitching. Bewitching nodded slightly, indicating that there was no problem. Bailey Heng Zhuang then said, then I'll leave first. Yu Linfeng nodded, his gaze gentle and loving. Today, he increasingly felt that he and Bailey Heng Zhuang were fated. Perhaps it was because they were related by blood. No matter what, he would definitely help Bailey Heng Zhuang complete what she wanted to do. Creak. After the door to the meeting hall closed, Yu Linfeng then looked at Bewitching. Young Master D, I'm very surprised why you're with Bailey girl. Yu Linfeng's expression was indifferent, and his tone revealed a trace of carefreeness, as if he was just casually asking. Lan Yunxiao and his wife had never been able to take care of Heng Zhuang, so he was Heng Zhuang's elder. He had thought that he would never have any relatives in this lifetime. Now that he had met Heng Zhuang, it was really a kind of fate. When I was forced to leave Tiangang sect, I met Heng Zhuang in Fengbo country. She was very special and helped me when I was at my lowest. Bewitching spoke slowly. When his legs were crippled, he was indeed at his lowest. At that time, Heng Zhuang was the sunshine that warmed his heart. Even now, that feeling was still deeply etched in his mind. He thought that he would never forget it in this lifetime. Yu Linfeng's expression changed a little. He also knew that Bewitching had been forced to leave. A few days ago, Gu Taihong had just given him the information from his investigation. When he found out about how Bewitching and Bailey Heng Zhuang met, he also felt that it was fated. Otherwise, with Bewitching's identity, it would be impossible for him to meet Bailey Heng Zhuang in this lifetime. Even if Bailey Heng Zhuang had participated in the assessment, she would have probably joined Limitless Palace. As a result, Bailey Heng Zhuang and Bewitching would never have any interactions in this lifetime. However, it was as if the heavens had arranged it. Bewitching had coincidentally gone to Fengbo country and married Bailey Heng Zhuang there. Logically speaking, even if Bewitching had gone to Fengbo country, the girl he met should only be an ordinary girl. Who would have thought that Heng Zhuang had such a special background? She was also not an ordinary person. He believed that this should be the fate that the heavens had specially arranged for Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Your legs were cured by Bailey Hongzhuang. According to the information that he had investigated, there was no information about how Di Beichen could stand up. Now that he heard Di Beichen's answer, he had such a guess in his heart. Chapter 1693. After getting Di Beichen's answer, Yu Linfeng was also a little surprised. Previously, when he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was known as the miracle doctor in Feng Bo country, he didn't know that Bailey Hongzhuang had a certain talent in medical skills. Now that he knew that Di Beichen's leg was cured by Bailey Hongzhuang, Yu Linfeng knew how outstanding Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were. As the young sect leader of Tiangang sect, Di Beichen suddenly suffered from a leg disease. Needless to say, he must have visited all the famous doctors. However, even after visiting all the famous doctors, Di Beichen's leg disease was still not cured. It was under such circumstances that Di Beichen was forced to leave Tiangang sect. 3 years ago, Bailey Hongzhuang was only 14 or 15 years old, and she was able to make Di Beichen stand up again. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were really too amazing. Not only that, according to the information that Gu Taiheng found, the more Yu Linfeng saw, the more surprised he was. During the inter-school competition, Bailey Hongzhuang won first place in the face competition. Although the 3 great academies weren't famous in their eyes, the alchemy competition that they held wouldn't be very powerful. However, since Bailey Hongzhuang was able to win first place in the alchemy competition, presumably her attainments in alchemy wouldn't be bad. Bailey Hongzhuang was only young, and not only was her cultivation talent outstanding, but she was also proficient in medical skills and alchemy. Adding all these aspects together, Bailey Hongzhuang was already outstanding enough. Even some of the outstanding children of the aristocratic families couldn't be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, because alchemists and doctors were very outstanding professions. When Gu Taiheng reported this information to him, he and Gu Taiheng were both surprised. However, this wasn't the end. As they learned more and more information, the surprise in their hearts became more and more intense. This was because they also learned that Bailey Hongzhuang had another identity besides being a cultivator, an alchemist and a doctor, an inscription master. An inscription master was a rarer profession than an alchemist and a doctor, and the requirements were very high. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in inscription were also very outstanding. This was also reflected in the inter-school tournament. The inscription masters of the Qing dynasty praised Bailey Hongzhuang, and even felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was the real master. Among these identities, as long as a cultivator had one of these identities, it was already a very powerful person. However, Bailey Hongzhuang actually had all 3. Not only that, but Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in these 3 areas were also very outstanding, which was a bit shocking. Yu Linfeng and Gu Taiheng were both experienced and knowledgeable people. They had seen a lot of strange things, but it was the first time they had seen a situation like Bailey Hongzhuang. After understanding all this, Yu Linfeng and Gu Taiheng could almost conclude that there must be a secret behind Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, it was impossible for a young lady of the Qing dynasty general's mansion to have the opportunity to come into contact with these. As for how Bailey Hongzhuang came into contact with these, Yu Linfeng didn't care. He was more amazed by Bailey Hongzhuang's talent and potential in these aspects. As everyone knew, it took a lot of talent to become an alchemist. If there was no talent, there was no opportunity to enter this profession. The requirements for an inscription master were even more stringent, and it could be said that 1 in 10,000 was chosen. Chapter 1694. No one could find fault with such a Bailey Hongzhuang. Because, whether it was in an aristocratic family or in a sect, such a Bailey Hongzhuang was an extremely outstanding existence. Although in many people's opinion, if a cultivator wholeheartedly walked the path of a cultivator, they would be able to go further. However, according to their current situation, this was clearly not a problem for Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang had already used her actions to prove all of this. Her cultivation was not weaker than the outstanding cultivators of her age. From Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Yu Linfeng could conclude that Bailey Hongzhuang's main focus was on cultivation. Revenge and saving her parents were the things that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to do the most. Yu Linfeng slowly collected his thoughts. This time, he only felt that choosing a disciple in the assessment competition was a very wise decision. He had found such a precious disciple, so he must nurture her well in the future. Then, you might just be grateful. Yu Linfeng slowly said. He could imagine the usually high-spirited Di Beichen suddenly becoming a cripple. He had nowhere to vent the despair and helplessness in his heart. Until Bailey Hongzhuang healed his legs, he was able to stand up again. Naturally, he was endlessly grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. Many people would treat this kind of gratitude as feelings, but the end result was usually very bad. Hearing Yu Linfeng's words, Di Beichen's eyes became firm and serious. I am very clear about my feelings. I am grateful to Hongzhuang, but more than that, it is love. I don't think I will be wrong about this. Just like when he expressed his feelings to Hongzhuang, Hongzhuang also suspected that he was just grateful. Only he knew that his feelings for Hongzhuang were never just gratitude. Because long before Hongzhuang healed his legs, he must have had feelings for Hongzhuang. Looking at Di Beichen's confident look, Yu Linfeng nodded slightly. It seemed that he didn't need to worry about this. You already know about Hongzhuang's background, right? Yu Linfeng's gaze landed on Di Beichen. His jade-like gentle eyes were filled with a trace of sharpness. Di Beichen nodded slightly. I know. In fact, Di Beichen was also a little surprised. He did not know how Yu Linfeng found out about this matter. At the same time, he did not understand why Yu Linfeng would choose to hand Limitless Palace over to Hongzhuang after finding out about this matter. Logically speaking, any sect leader would look for a powerful cultivator with a good character when choosing a successor. Moreover, this cultivator would not cause any trouble. Hongzhuang did not have any problems in other aspects, but her background was undoubtedly a huge problem. Hongzhuang was destined to rescue her parents and take revenge. Once she became the young palace master of Limitless Palace, then Limitless Palace would be linked to her. When the Yu clan and Lan clan became enemies, Limitless Palace would naturally be involved. If it was anyone else, they would not want the sect that they had supported to be involved in this kind of matter. No matter how good Hongzhuang's innate talent was, Yu Linfeng would not choose her. However, Yu Linfeng's reaction was unexpected. Not only did he choose Hongzhuang, he was also unusually firm without any hesitation. This was a little too strange. Chapter 1695. Di Beichen kept pondering, but in the end, he did not voice his doubts. Then what do you plan to do? Yu Linfeng continued. The most important thing now was to rescue Bailey Hongzhuang's parents. As for the other matters, they could take their time to think about it. The longer Lan Yunxiao and his wife stayed in the Yu clan, the greater the danger. Seeing that Yu Linfeng was so concerned about Hongzhuang's parents, Di Beichen was even more puzzled. Why was he doing this? As if he could see Di Beichen's anger, Yu Linfeng was not surprised. Thinking about it, anyone who saw him being so concerned about Hongzhuang's parents would also find it strange. Since Hongzhuang is my disciple, I naturally want her to be well. If you think of a way and need my help, you can tell me. Yu Linfeng's expression was indifferent and calm. His pair of gentle eyes were filled with concern and sincerity. He and Bailey Hongzhuang felt like old friends at first sight, so he was very satisfied with this disciple of his. Only after rescuing Bailey Hongzhuang's parents would Hongzhuang be able to do other things with peace of mind. Otherwise, it would not be good if there was always one thing hanging in the air. Following Yu Linfeng's Huayun, Di Beichen's deep eyes flashed with a trace of light. Yu Linfeng's heartfelt words surprised him, but he understood even more clearly that Yu Linfeng thought highly of Bailey Hongzhuang. This was the elder's concern for the younger generation. Just like how Situ Yan had always taken care of him, Yu Linfeng also treated Bailey Hongzhuang the same way. Thinking of this, Di Beichen immediately bowed to Yu Linfeng. Thank you, Palace Master Yu. I will think of a way to rescue Heng Zhuang's parents as soon as possible. This matter had always been on his mind. As long as this matter was not resolved, his heart would not be at ease. However, he was still waiting for news from the Shirtian pavilion. Only when he knew the exact location of Heng Zhuang's parents could he take action. At this moment, Di Beichen suddenly recalled a secret. It was said that the Limitless Palace Master had always hated the cultivators from the Lan clan. So far, the Limitless Palace had never had any contact with the Lan clan. None of the Lan clan's cultivators had ever appeared in Limitless Palace. Although there was no concrete evidence, many people had spread such rumors. Could it be that there was a grudge between Palace Master Yu and the Lan family? If that was the case, Di Beichen felt that it was understandable why Yu Linfeng would help Heng Zhuang. Seeing this, Yu Linfeng also nodded. Do you have any news now? Currently, we are still unable to determine where Heng Zhuang's parents are being held by the Yu clan. They have done this matter very secretly. I have already sent people to investigate for a long time, but they have not found anything. Yu Linfeng narrowed his eyes. The Yu clan is a big family. I think that this matter would not be known by everyone in the Yu clan. Only Yu Manlan and the other Yu clan disciples would know about it. If such an important matter was exposed, it would be a huge blow to the Yu clan. Therefore, they would definitely do it very secretly. Why don't I go and ask around? I have already asked the people from the Shirtian pavilion to help me ask around. I believe that there will be results after a while. Di Beichen said slowly. It was not that he had no way to find out this information, but he was afraid that the situation might change if he made a big move. Chapter 1696. Did Shirtian Tower accept this mission? Yu Linfeng asked. They will accept it. Di Beichen's tone was firm. If he was still worried about whether Shirtian Tower would accept this mission, after knowing that Mo Yunjue was the young master of Shirtian Tower, he was already certain of the answer. He and Mo Yunjue had only met twice, but just from the process of his dealings with Mo Yunjue, he could already conclude that Mo Yunjue was a very powerful person. They were rivals in love, but they both hoped that Heng Zhuang could live well. Therefore, Mo Yunjue would definitely help. As long as Mo Yunjue inquired about the location of Heng Zhuang's parents, he would immediately send people to act. He would definitely rescue Heng Zhuang's parents as soon as possible. After seeing Di Beichen so certain, Yu Linfeng's eyebrows were tinged with a trace of surprise, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Generally speaking, Shirtian Tower would not accept a mission that involved a lot of things, unless the other party gave them conditions that they could not refuse. Otherwise, they would not be willing to do something that might offend the Yu clan. As a medical family, the Yu clan was really a family full of disciples. In the entire Xingxian continent, there were many cultivators who had received their kindness. However, the Yu clan was not a medical family. They only treated people for benefits. As long as they could not pay enough benefits, even if a cultivator died in front of their door, they would not blink. Since Shirtian Tower will accept this mission, I believe that they will definitely find out the specific location. Yu Linfeng's eyes flashed with wisdom. He was also very impressed with Shirtian Tower's information network. There was almost no news in the entire Xingxian continent that they could not find out. As long as they determined the location, they could take action. Di Beichen nodded slightly. I will do it as soon as possible. If you need my help, just tell me. Bailey girl is my disciple. Although we have not been master and disciple for long, she is a junior that I think highly of. Since you're together with Bailey girl, you have to treat her well, Yu Linfeng said earnestly. Bailey Hongzhuang's background was too pitiful. He only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang would be happy in the future. Feeling the connection and lamentation in Yu Linfeng's words, Di Beichen's heart was also touched. No matter who it was, they would feel pity for Heng Zhuang after learning about her past. Heng Zhuang was such a good girl, yet such a thing happened to Heng Zhuang. He could only hope that everything would get better in the future. Palace Master Yu, don't worry. I will definitely treat Hong Zhuang well. Di Beichen's handsome face flashed with a serious light, and his words were like an oath. After talking with Yu Linfeng for a while, Di Beichen walked out of the assembly hall. Outside the assembly hall, Bailey Hongzhuang, He Mu, and the three beasties were waiting outside. Gu Taiheng was also looking at them with a kind smile. They did not know what Yu Linfeng was talking about with Di Beichen in the assembly hall, so they could only wait here. He Mu did not know what the young master and young madam were doing here. He was completely confused. After the three beasties arrived at Limitless Palace, they became well-behaved. Playing around on normal days was nothing. Now that they came out with their master, their actions represented their master. Naturally, they could not lose face for their master. Chapter 1697. Gu Taiheng's gaze landed on Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi. These three contracted beasts were very special. Until now, he had never seen such contracted beasts before. Aside from the different colors, the two black and white furballs were exactly the same, as if they were twin beasts. Moreover, that pair of eyes were full of liveliness. Compared to the other contracted beasts he usually saw, it was undoubtedly much livelier. It was as if its intelligence was higher as well. The other white contracted beast looked very cute. Its round body was lazy and cozy, but its pair of lively big eyes revealed a bit of sharpness. These three little fellows looked like they had no battle strength, but he noticed that the strength of these three contracted beasts was not simple. With Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's status, their contracted beasts were naturally not simple beasts. Gu Taiheng's gaze wandered between the three contracted beasts for a moment, then his gaze landed on Xiao He and Xiao Bai. Since Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were a pair of lovers, then it was very likely that their contracted beasts were similar. This black and white furball was obviously very suitable for Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Hearing Gu Taiheng's words, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment, then smiled and said, "They are all my contracted beasts." Master had already prepared to nurture her as the successor of Limitless Palace. As Master's most trusted elder, she could naturally trust Elder Gu. Even if she didn't say it now, Gu Taiheng would find out sooner or later, so there was no need to hide it. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Gu Taiheng couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. His eyes suddenly widened, and he suspected that he had heard wrongly. "These three beasts are all yours?" Even though Gu Taiheng was sure that he didn't hear wrongly, he still couldn't believe this answer. Everyone could only have one contracted beast. How could Bailey Hongzhuang have three contracted beasts? This was simply too inconceivable. When He Mu saw Gu Taiheng's incredulous expression, a faint smile appeared on his face. When he first found out that young madam had contracted three demon beasts, his expression wasn't much better than Gu Taiheng's. Young master had always been outstanding since he was young, but every time young madam did something, it would always give people an indescribable feeling of shock. In the eyes of ordinary people, some things that were impossible to happen often happened to young madam. Now that he had seen so many things, he was already puzzled. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. "That's right." Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang affirm the answer, Gu Taiheng couldn't help but ask, "You? How did you do it?" Every cultivator could only form a contract with one demonic beast. This was a law that had been passed down in the Xingxian continent for many years. It wasn't that no one had tried to contract two demonic beasts. After all, contracting one more demonic beast would increase the strength of the cultivator. However, none of the cultivators who tried this had a good ending. After witnessing such a situation, no cultivator in the Xingxian continent dared to attempt such a thing. However, he actually saw a successful case. This was simply too unbelievable. Chapter 1698. The reason why Bailey Hongzhuang was able to contract three monsters was because of the existence of the Chaos Ring. If it weren't for the Chaos Ring, she would naturally only be able to form a contract with one demonic beast. However, she could not say this reason. After thinking about it, Bailey Hongzhuang could only make up a reason and attribute everything to her own uniqueness. After all, she had no way to make other cultivators do this. I don't know what's going on at this point, maybe it's because of my special characteristics. At the beginning, I accidentally contracted the second monster, and later found that there was no effect, so I contracted the third monster. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was a bit confused. She then asked, Elder Gu, do you know the reason? After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Gu Taihong was a little puzzled, but soon felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's answer was true. Because, he had never heard of a cultivator in the Xingxian continent who had successfully contracted multiple monsters. Bailey Hongzhuang's ignorant and blank expression did not seem to be faked. If this kind of thing happened to him, he would not know the reason. There were many things in this world that people could not explain. Perhaps, among the thousands of cultivators, there was a special case like Bailey Hongzhuang. This was not impossible. In the history of the Xingxian continent, there were many talented cultivators who could often do things that other cultivators could not do. However, when this kind of thing happened to Bailey Hongzhuang, Gu Taihong's mood was still a bit complicated. In the process of investigating Bailey Hongzhuang's past, Gu Taihong was refreshed by Bailey Hongzhuang again and again. Doctor, alchemist, inscription master, cultivator, Bailey Hongzhuang had 4 identities, and her development in these 4 aspects was extremely outstanding. Doctor, Bailey Hongzhuang was a very famous doctor in the Fengbo country. Alchemist, Bailey Hongzhuang won the first place in the 3 Academy tournament. Inscription master, Bailey Hongzhuang was highly sought after by the Qing dynasty's inscription masters. Cultivator, Bailey Hongzhuang won the first place in the assessment tournament. If it was any other young person, as long as they had one of these 4 identities, it would be an extremely happy thing. However, Bailey Hongzhuang directly took all these professions, and her achievements in each profession were excellent. As an elder of Wuji Palace, he had seen many young cultivators, but he really did not understand how Bailey Hongzhuang had so much energy to accomplish all this. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang had successfully contracted 3 more demonic beasts. This was truly infuriating. Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments were a bit too amazing. However, Gu Taihong was very sympathetic to Bailey Hongzhuang's tragic life. Any achievements were not obtained for free, but relied on the continuous efforts of the cultivator to succeed. Thinking about it, it was because of her miserable life that Bailey Hongzhuang worked so hard. All these efforts would be rewarded. He believed that Bailey Hongzhuang would succeed in her revenge and rescue her parents. I've never heard of a cultivator being able to contract with 3 demonic beasts. Miss Bailey has really opened my eyes. Gu Taihong laughed. Chapter 1699. Following the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Gu Taihong, not long after, Di Beichen walked out of the conference hall. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Di Beichen's face revealed a smile. Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang called out softly and walked to the front of Di Beichen. Di Beichen smiled and said, Palace Master Yu called you in. He has something to tell you. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She did not expect that her master would call them in separately. Then I'll go in. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and signaled to Gu Taihong before walking into the conference hall. When He Mu saw the young master and young madam walking into the conference hall, he was even more confused. What was the palace master of Limitless Palace trying to do? Conference hall. Master. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed respectfully to Yu Linfeng. There's no one else here. You don't have to be so polite. Yu Linfeng waved his hand and smiled. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Thank you, Master. There's nothing important to call you here. I just want to tell you about the next arrangement. Master, please tell me. Have a good rest and relax in these 3 months. After 3 months, cultivate in Tiangang sect for 3 months. Lastly, come to Limitless Palace to cultivate with me for 3 months. I have already told young sect Master D about this. He will arrange it for you. Before you learn everything that I have taught you, I will not reveal your identity as the young palace master of Limitless Palace. You have to be careful too. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded seriously. Thank you, Master. I understand. With her current strength, she was indeed not qualified to assume the identity of Limitless Palace's young palace master. If she were to publicize this point now, not only would it not bring her any benefits, it might even cause others to question her master's judgment. The title of first place in the assessment was indeed not bad. However, compared to the title of Limitless Palace's young palace master, there was still a huge gap. That's good. I believe you'll be fine. Yu Linfeng's eyes were filled with admiration. He admired Bailey Hongzhuang's strength and humility. However, any cultivator who could walk far on the path of cultivation all had the quality of humility. If they became arrogant because of a little achievement, they were destined to not have great achievements on this path. Bailey Hongzhuang deeply bowed to Yu Linfeng, her beautiful face full of sincerity and gratitude. Thank you for taking care of me, Master. I won't let you down. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was filled with gratitude. From the beginning to the end, her master had trusted her and helped her. She was extremely grateful. In this world, there weren't many people who treated her well. However, for those who treated her well, she would do her best to treat them better. She had no way to repay her master's kindness. She could only make herself stronger and more outstanding. Only by doing so, she wouldn't let down her master's expectations. Looking at the expression in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Yu Linfeng's lips curled up. If you need my help, just tell me directly. I will do my best to help you. Yu Linfeng continued, since you're my disciple, you're not an outsider in the future. Chapter 1700. Not an outsider. A woman in a bright red dress walked in briskly. Her bright and moving face was full of brashness and fierceness. Her delicate and flawless facial features were beautiful and moving, revealing a bold and unrestrained air. However, her face was full of anger at this moment. Yu Linfeng, who are you and not an outsider? The woman glared angrily at Yu Linfeng, her eyes burning with 2 clusters of flames. It was as if she would kill Yu Linfeng if Yu Linfeng didn't answer her question clearly. When Yu Linfeng saw the woman appear, his expression immediately changed. He said, Wu, that's not what I meant. If that's not what you meant, then what do you mean? Nangong Wu immediately drew her sharp sword and glared at Yu Linfeng fiercely. Clearly, if Yu Linfeng's answer didn't suit her, she would definitely attack immediately. Wu, please don't misunderstand. Yu Linfeng hurriedly said, his expression filled with nervousness and awkwardness. However, Nangong Wu's emotions didn't calm down so easily. She only glared at Yu Linfeng and said, Tell me, who is this woman? Bailey Hongzhuang stared blankly at Nangong Wu who had suddenly appeared. Although Nangong Wu's murderous aura was very strong, judging from the way Nangong Wu and her master were conversing, it was clearly more like flirting. Wu, Bailey girl is my disciple. Didn't I mention it to you before? Yu Linfeng smiled faintly at Nangong Wu, hoping to calm Nangong Wu down. Sure enough, after knowing Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, Nangong Wu was slightly stunned. She immediately put away her weapon and revealed a look of understanding. So she's your disciple. Yu Linfeng had mentioned this to her before, but she didn't pay much attention to it. In her eyes, as long as it was something Yu Linfeng did, there wouldn't be any problems. It was just that she didn't know that Yu Linfeng's disciple was a woman, which led to such a misunderstanding. Seeing the change in Nangong Wu, Yu Linfeng also let out a sigh of relief. He knew that once Nangong Wu lost her temper, the power would be really shocking. Nangong Wu then carefully looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face, Nan Gongwu's expression changed again. "Yu Linfeng, have you had a change of heart?" Nan Gongwu pursed her lips. She no longer had the arrogance from before. Instead, she looked pitiful. Why do you say that?" Yu Linfeng obviously couldn't keep up with Nan Gongwu's thoughts. He had just cleared up the misunderstanding. Why did Nan Gongwu suddenly change again? "Yu Linfeng, if you want to find a disciple, then just find a disciple. Why did you bring such a beautiful girl back? Do you have other thoughts?" Nan Gongwu's eyes quickly filled with a layer of mist. She looked like she was about to cry, which made her look very pitiful. It's not what you think." Yu Linfeng quickly stepped forward and walked to Nan Gongwu's side. "I don't have such thoughts. What's more, you know my arrangements in the ruins. Whoever passes will be my disciple. I can't determine who will pass. Appearance is one thing, it's just a coincidence." Bailey Hongzhuang stood in place and stared blankly at this scene. She already understood that this woman in red was her master's wife. However, she didn't expect her master to have such a side. It was really surprising. Chapter 1701. When she heard Yu Linfeng's words, the sobbing Nan Gongwu froze for a moment. She thought carefully in her mind and realized that Yu Linfeng was right. No one would know who the cultivator who had received their inheritance was until the very last moment. As for the appearance, it was even more impossible to predict. However, from a woman's point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang was too threatening. She had always had high standards, but after meeting Bailey Hongzhuang, she felt that she was invulnerable, let alone a man. Then how dangerous would it be for me to find such a disciple? Nan Gongwu looked at Yu Linfeng in dissatisfaction. She had thought that she was beautiful enough, but she never thought that she would have such a beautiful disciple. As a woman, she was a great threat. Seeing that Nan Gongwu was getting off topic, Yu Linfeng felt even more helpless. He pulled Nan Gongwu to sit next to him. Don't think too much. In fact, I should be Bailey's elder, an elder who is related to her by blood." Yu Linfeng's voice was gentle as he looked at Nan Gongwu with eyes full of love and affection. He patiently explained to Nan Gongwu. Bailey Hongzhuang stood on the spot and watched the scene. She felt that she should leave first under such circumstances. However, it would not be right for her to leave in such an awkward situation. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang could only stand awkwardly on the spot. She thought that her master would be able to solve this problem very quickly. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not expect her master, who had always been calm and collected, to be at a loss after seeing his wife. How interesting! If she had not seen this scene with her own eyes, she would never have imagined it. However, she was happy to see how close her master and his wife were. Although she did not know what her master had encountered in the Lan family in the past, she thought that it would not have been any better. Moreover, in order to not have any connection with the Lan family, master even took out the rainbow divine pearl. His master had endured so many things in the past, and now that he was able to find his own happiness, it was undoubtedly the happiest thing for him. After hearing Yu Linfeng's words, Nan Gongwu also calmed down. She looked at Yu Linfeng in surprise, her expression full of confusion. Blood relationship? Nan Gongwu's eyes wandered between Yu Linfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang. She could not believe what she had heard. You mean this girl is also from the Lan family? After understanding this point, Nan Gongwu couldn't believe it. She knew very well just how much Yu Linfeng hated the Lan family. Normally, Yu Linfeng's face would darken whenever the Lan family was mentioned. Even when Limitless Palace was recruiting disciples, they would never recruit any cultivators who were related to the Lan family. From this, she could tell that Yu Linfeng hated the Lan family. However, Yu Linfeng actually found a cultivator from the Lan family to be his disciple. Wasn't this equivalent to giving Limitless Palace to the Lan family? How could Yu Linfeng make such a decision? Nan Gongwu was completely stunned at this moment, but her clear and bright eyes were filled with a hint of seriousness. She wanted to know the answer. Yu Linfeng must have his reasons for doing this. Chapter 1702. After hearing Yu Linfeng's words, Nan Gongwu also understood a bit. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a bit of shock. She didn't think that when Yu Linfeng was recruiting disciples, there would be such a thing. Didn't this mean that Bailey Hongzhuang also suffered unfair treatment in the Lan family? Yu Linfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Bailey Hongzhuang, do you mind?" Hearing Yu Linfeng's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood what Yu Linfeng was asking her. "I don't mind." Since Nan Gongwu was her master's wife, she would know about these things sooner or later. She didn't want her matter to become a grudge between her master and master's wife. She believed that after master's wife knew the reason, she wouldn't mind. Yu Linfeng nodded slightly. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, the affection in his eyes became stronger. Not only was this disciple of his amazing talent, but her character was also very good. Perhaps it was because of all these reasons, he was even more determined to hand over Limitless Palace to Bailey Hongzhuang. The matter is like this, Yu Linfeng slowly told Nan Gongwu about Bailey Hongzhuang's life. He was very clear that Nan Gongwu had a childish temper. As long as Nan Gongwu knew about Bailey Hongzhuang's life, he was afraid that Nan Gongwu would treat Bailey Hongzhuang better. This woman, when she was angry, she was scarier than anyone else. However, her softness was equally shocking. With Yu Linfeng's explanation, Nan Gongwu gradually understood. She never thought that Yu Linfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang had such a relationship. Bailey Hongzhuang's life was actually so pitiful. Nan Gongwu couldn't help but feel heartache. Lan Jingquang's family is simply inhumane. After knowing everything, Nan Gongwu immediately stood up. Her eyes were burning with anger again. The Lan family is really bad. After such a thing happened, they still stood on Lan Jingquang's side. It's really disappointing. Nan Gongwu's face was filled with indignation. She couldn't believe that such a thing actually happened. The Rainbow Pearl was forcefully taken away, her parents were still imprisoned in the Yu clan. Bailey Hongzhuang completely didn't know about her life. She couldn't imagine how did Bailey Hongzhuang endure all this when she found out about her life's life. It came to think about it, this kind was a huge blow to anyone's life. Bailey Hongzhuang had started off as a cultivator of a small dynasty, and it really wasn't easy for her to reach her current position. At this moment, Nan Gongwu didn't have any jealousy from before. Now, she only felt even more disgusted with the Lan family. Previously, they had done such a terrible thing to Linfeng. She never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would do something even worse. It's not just the Lan family. That Yu clan is also despicable. Chapter 1703. Seeing Nan Gongwu's murderous look, Bailey Hongzhuang was also dumbfounded. This mistress of his was really in a rush, just like how she was when she first walked in. Yu Linfeng quickly pulled Nan Gongwu back and said, Things are not so simple now. Bailey's parents are still locked up in the Yu clan. If we act rashly now, once we are discovered, Bailey's parents will be in danger. After Yu Linfeng's reminder, Nan Gongwu finally reacted and said, "Yes, I almost forgot about this most important thing. Then let's go save Hongzhuang's parents first. After we save them, we will kill the Lan clan." The next moment, Nan Gongwu walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang again and said, "Hongzhuang, everything will be fine. If you have any problems, look for me. As long as I can do it, I will definitely help you. When you kill the Lan clan, you must call me. I have been accumulating my resentment towards the Lan clan for a long time." After knowing all this, Nan Gongwu no longer had any thoughts of jealousy. She only sympathized with Bailey Hongzhuang and hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang could rescue her parents as soon as possible. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang was Yu Linfeng's junior, so there was no need to worry about this. Yu Linfeng's smile revealed a bit of helplessness. Nan Gongwu had always been like this. He was also very helpless. However, it was precisely because of Nan Gongwu's character that he liked her even more. Thank you, Master's wife. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with a joyful smile. Although today was the first time she met Master's wife and almost caused a jealous misunderstanding, she felt that with Nan Gongwu's character, she should be easy to get along with. She believed in Master's eyesight. Don't be so polite. We will be a family in the future. Nan Gongwu patted Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and smiled warmly. Listening to Nan Gongwu's words, Yu Linfeng was even more helpless. Someone just said that he was wrong. From the first time I saw you, I felt a sense of affinity. You are Linfeng's disciple, so you are my disciple. I will teach you everything I know. Nan Gongwu was extremely excited. Yu Linfeng and her were the only two people in Limitless Palace. Although there were many disciples in the sect, they were not very close. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was here, they would definitely have a lot of things to talk about. When she thought of this, Nan Gongwu couldn't help but become excited. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. Thank you, Master's wife. Yu Linfeng chuckled. Bailey lass, don't be fooled by Master's wife's impetuous personality. Her strength is still very strong. You will see it in the future. Moreover, she likes to create some strange things. I feel that the two of you should hit it off very well. Thinking about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity as a doctor, an alchemist, and an inscription master, Yu Linfeng could conclude that Bailey Hongzhuang must also like to research some strange things. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She always liked to fiddle with some special things. During the process of creation, she always felt that it was full of fun. Really? Hongzhuang, you also like these? Nan Gongwu said excitedly. Her pair of bright eyes looked at Hongzhuang as if she saw the most intimate person. Chapter 1704. I like to make weapons, explosives and the like. Nan Gongwu's face was filled with an excited smile. She liked to deal with these things the most, but Yu Linfeng was not interested in these things. Therefore, she usually studied these things by herself. The dark phoenix eyes were filled with deep surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Nan Gongwu in surprise. It was really hard to imagine that Master's wife would like to study these things. I haven't come into contact with these. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. So far, she had come into contact with things like medical skills and inscription techniques. She really had not come into contact with weapons and explosives. Hearing this, Nan Gongwu was a little disappointed. She just wanted to find someone who was interested in these things like herself. It seemed that it was really too difficult. However, I am very interested. The delicate and dazzling face was filled with a gentle smile. Although she had never come into contact with these things, she was also very interested in these things, especially explosives. With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Nan Gongwu's face quickly filled with a touch of joy. Really? Nan Gongwu asked uncertainly. She had liked these things for a long time, but the people she had come into contact with were not interested in these things. After all, most cultivators put their energy into cultivation. There were not many cultivators like her who did not do proper work. If there was a person who did not do proper work, it would be Bailey Hongzhuang who did not do proper work. She was obviously a cultivator, but she had dabbled in medical skills, alchemy, and inscription techniques. However, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that there was nothing wrong with this. Really? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded seriously. She was full of interest in many things that she did not understand. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to be lying, Nan Gongwu's eyes became more and more excited. That's really great. I will have a companion in the future. Nan Gongwu was excited. When the time comes, we'll make a powerful explosive and throw it into the Lan family. The effect will be great. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She had to admit that what Ma Am said was a very good suggestion. When he went to take revenge, he would throw a few explosives. The effect would definitely be great. When Yu Linfeng saw the excited Nan Gongwu and Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him, the smile in his eyes deepened. It seemed that he had made the right choice in accepting this disciple. After a burst of joy, Nan Gongwu remembered something and said, "When I came in just now, I seem to have seen the young master of Tiangang sect, Bewitching. Why is he here?" The dignified young sect master suddenly paid a visit to Limitless Palace. This should be a very big matter, but until now, why didn't she receive any news about it? Yu Linfeng smiled. Young sect master D and Bailey Lass are a couple. Young sect master D specially came to accompany Bailey Lass. After the conversation with D Beichen previously, his impression of D Beichen was very good. He believed in his judgment. If there were no accidents, D Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang would walk to the end. Hearing Yu Linfeng's words, Nan Gongwu was slightly stunned. Her gaze then fell onto Bailey Hongzhuang. Really? She heard from Linfeng that Bailey Hongzhuang came from a small empire. Since she was from a small empire, how did she know the young master of Tiangang sect? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, tacitly agreeing with Nan Gongwu's question. Chapter 1705. Bailey Hongzhuang was very clear that those cultivators who knew of her relationship with D Beichen were all in disbelief. Many people felt that she and D Beichen would not be able to walk to the end, but she was full of confidence towards this relationship. Only, Nan Gongwu's reaction was still beyond Bailey Hongzhuang's expectations. Nan Gongwu directly gave Bailey Hongzhuang a thumbs up, beautifully done. I didn't like that Han something from the start, Han something. Nan Gongwu couldn't help but look towards Yu Linfeng, but she couldn't remember this name. Han Shiling. Yu Linfeng smiled helplessly. Yes, Han Shiling. Nan Gongwu nodded. I didn't like Han Shiling from the first time I saw him, acting all high and mighty, as if he was very impressive. How could he be as pretty as our Hongzhuang? Totally incomparable. Nan Gongwu couldn't help but hold on to Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, her smile filled with delight. At that time, I already said that if young sect master D was only together with Han Shiling, then he must be blind. Now it seems that not only is young sect master D not blind, his taste is very good. Previously, I already thought that young sect master D was not bad. He's handsome, young and promising, and there aren't many like him in the entire younger generation. Hongzhuang, you must hold on to him well. Nan Gongwu smiled and winked at Bailey Hongzhuang, then pointed to Yu Linfeng behind her, just like me. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. This master's wife of hers was simply too interesting. But, master is so outstanding, master's wife has indeed grabbed hold of a good man, ha. I'm telling you the truth. Although there are many men in this world, there aren't many who are the best. Nan Gongwu looked serious. She liked Bailey Hongzhuang more and more now. She was beautiful, discerning, strong, and interested in explosives. They were simply too congenial. Seeing that Nan Gongwu's words were getting more and more ridiculous, Yu Linfeng couldn't help but walk forward and say, your teacher's wife is like this. You'll get used to it. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at her sensible master and her senseless master's wife. She suddenly felt that these two people were really an excellent pair. It was precisely because their personalities were so different that it would be faster when they were together. Outside the council hall, D Beichen frowned when he saw Nan Gongwu rushing in. Looking at this posture, Nan Gongwu seemed to have some ill intentions. He had seen Nan Gongwu before. In fact, it was hard to forget a woman like Nan Gongwu after seeing her once. That was because her personality was too unique. As everyone knew, Limitless Palace Master Yu Linfeng's wife was a flamboyant, impulsive, and fearless woman. She didn't care about her reputation at all. She didn't care about any problems. Everything was out of her consideration. She only cared about her own happiness and unhappiness. It was said that she had once heard a sect leader badmouthing her. She immediately rushed up to argue with him. She did not hesitate to curse, not caring about her own identity. On the contrary, that sect master lost all his face. After this incident, everyone rarely went to offend Nan Gongwu. Nan Gongwu didn't care, but they did. Suddenly being pointed at their nose and scolded, no one could stand it. Chapter 1706. It was said that at that time, the sect master stood there and was scolded by Nan Gongwu for a long time, but he didn't say anything back. After all, as the sect master, it was impossible for him to scold others. Naturally, he didn't have the ability to scold others. What's more, even if Nan Gongwu didn't care about his face, he couldn't possibly scold her without caring about his face. As a result, almost no one dared to offend Nan Gongwu. No one would be able to stand being scolded like this. If it was an ordinary person, they could just kill them. However, Nan Gongwu was the wife of Limitless Palace's palace master. Who would dare to kill her? Once it involved the sect, it would be even more complicated. No one was willing to magnify the conflict. Therefore, they could only suffer in silence. Not only that, everyone knew that Limitless Palace's palace master, Yu Linfeng, doted on his wife very much. He wouldn't blame Nan Gongwu at all. Therefore, in the world of sex, there was a weirdo like Nan Gongwu. No one could control her. Heng Zhuang found Yu Linfeng as her master. This Nan Gongwu was also a problem. Di Beichen couldn't help but worry. If Nan Gongwu liked Heng Zhuang, it would be great. With Nan Gongwu's protective personality, Heng Zhuang wouldn't need to worry about Nan Gongwu in Limitless Palace. However, if Nan Gongwu didn't like Heng Zhuang, then the situation would be terrible. After all, with Nan Gongwu's position in Limitless Palace and the degree of doting between Yu Linfeng and Nan Gongwu, Heng Zhuang would be at a disadvantage. No one could say for sure about Nan Gongwu's personality. She might have an inexplicable affinity, or she might not like her. Thinking of this, Di Beichen couldn't help but worry. He only hoped that the worst situation wouldn't happen. If he really didn't get along with Nan Gongwu, he wouldn't let Heng Zhuang suffer. After all, everyone knew that Yu Linfeng doted on Nan Gongwu. Di Beichen loved Bailey Heng Zhuang was also a fact. Just when Di Beichen was thinking, Bailey Heng Zhuang, Yu Linfeng, and Nan Gongwu came out together. After seeing the smiles on the faces of the three people, the worry in Di Beichen's heart was put down. It seemed that it was not as bad as he thought. Heng Zhuang, go back to Tiangang sect now. Remember to come back when the time is up. I still have a lot of things to say. Nan Gongwu smiled at Bailey Heng Zhuang. She felt that to her, Bailey Heng Zhuang was like a younger sister and a daughter. She really liked her. When Bailey Heng Zhuang came to Limitless Palace, she wouldn't be so bored. If it wasn't for the fact that Heng Zhuang could be together with Di Beichen, she really wanted to leave Heng Zhuang in Limitless Palace now. Hearing this, Bailey Heng Zhuang smiled and nodded, I will definitely come on time. Although it was the first time she met Nan Gongwu, she liked Nan Gongwu's character. No matter what, she wouldn't hide anything. It was easy to get along with her. She believed that she and Master's wife would get along well in the future. Young sect Master D. Nan Gongwu's gaze fell on Di Beichen. Her eyes were filled with admiration. Now that I see it, young sect Master D and Heng Zhuang are really a good match. In the future, Limitless Palace and Tiangang sect can get closer and interact more. Di Beichen cupped his hands, thank you for your praise. If there's an opportunity, I will definitely interact more. Nan Gongwu looked at Di Beichen with satisfaction, among the younger generation, I like you the most. Chapter 1707. As if realizing the ambiguity in her words, Nan Gongwu continued, I'm relieved that Heng Zhuang is with you. I hope you two can continue to love each other. Following Nan Gongwu's words, everyone's expression returned to normal. Palace mistress, don't worry. I will take good care of Heng Zhuang. Di Beichen's face was brimming with a handsome smile. His Heng Zhuang was really capable. They had only met once and she was able to get along so well with Nan Gongwu. At this moment, Nan Gongwu's expression was completely different from when she first walked in. This change wasn't ordinary. He Mu stood at the side in a daze. He didn't understand what was going on. Why would the palace mistress of Limitless Palace be so intimate with young mistress? Looking at this situation, it was as if young mistress had a close relationship with them. However, according to the information he had gathered, he didn't know that young mistress was involved with Limitless Palace. Could it be that his information wasn't accurate? He Mu's expression changed again and again. What was going on? He really couldn't understand. He originally thought that they came to Limitless Palace because the young lord had something to do. Now, it seemed that they came here because of young mistress. Compared to He Mu's confusion, the three beasties were undoubtedly very happy. When their master accepted the inheritance, they didn't know the specific situation. Although they later found out that Yu Linfeng intended to make their master the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace, they still felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. Now, it seemed that this situation was already set in stone. Their master was indeed capable. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to do this. Thinking of this, the three beasties couldn't help but jump for joy. In this way, they would have another helping hand when dealing with the Lan family. That Lan Qingyan can be arrogant in the Lan family now. She snatched Master's rainbow pearl and even occupied Master's position as the Lan family's patriarch. She thought that she could trample Master like this. And now, Master is also the young palace mistress of Limitless Palace. Master isn't any worse than her. Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with anger. Soon, they would find the Lan family. Let Lan Qingyan be arrogant for a while. Not long after, they would make Lan Qingyan unable to be arrogant anymore. Everything that happened in the past must be returned to Lan Qingyan's family. Since they used despicable means to step on Master's parents to obtain today's glory, then they should have a taste of falling to the bottom of the valley. Xiao Bai's eyes were gloomy. When it thought about how those fellows still had a clear conscience after causing such harm to Master's family, it gritted its teeth and wanted those fellows to pay the price. Sooner or later. A ferocious glint flashed across Baisher's eyes. We have to work hard in our cultivation as well. When the time comes, we'll be able to get rid of one more person and feel a little better. As Baisher's voice fell, the three beasts' faces were filled with excitement. That day was not too far away. Lan Jingquang, Yuman Lan, Lan Qingyan, just you wait. Heng Zhuang, young palace mistress Di, since you're already here, why don't you stay at our Limitless Palace for a few days? Nan Gongwu asked with a smile. Heng Zhuang finally came, so she couldn't just leave like this. Hearing this, Bailey Heng Zhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and said, "Many thanks for mistress's kindness, but we still have some things to do. This time, we won't be staying here for long." Chapter 1708. Seeing that Bailey Heng Zhuang and Di Beichen had already discussed this matter, Nan Gongwu also nodded her head. Right now, Bailey Heng Zhuang and Di Beichen must be wholeheartedly focused on rescuing Lan Yunxiao and his wife. This was something that should be done. Alright then. Let's have a good gathering the next time we come. Nan Gongwu said with a smile. Yu Linfeng also spoke up, if there's anything that we can help with, just let us know. No matter if it was the Lan family or the Yu family, they were both colossi. Dealing with them would definitely not be an easy matter. Even if Tiangang sect helped Heng Zhuang, it would still not be easy. Right now, Limitless Palace was also standing on Heng Zhuang's side. He also hoped to be able to help Heng Zhuang. Bailey Heng Zhuang bowed deeply towards Yu Linfeng, "Many thanks, Master." Yu Linfeng waved his hand. No matter what, master and master's wife will stand on your side. Nan Gongwu also nodded. Don't be afraid of them. Do what you need to do. Our limitless palace is not just for show. When Gu Taihong saw Nan Gongwu's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang, he was even more surprised. Everyone knew that it was not easy for the palace mistress to have a good impression of a woman. Previously, when he saw the palace mistress aggressively entering the discussion hall, he was still a little worried. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so capable. Not only did she not make the palace mistress dislike her, she even made the palace mistress like her so much. This was really not easy. Thinking up to here, Gu Taihong felt some admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang. However, although he had only seen Bailey Hongzhuang twice, he also liked Bailey Hongzhuang very much. It would be hard for people to have a bad impression of such a beautiful and powerful woman. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang was so humble and courteous, and she worked so hard on her cultivation. It was hard not to like her. After confirming that the palace mistress also liked Bailey Hongzhuang, Gu Taihong had already determined that Bailey Hongzhuang would be the future young palace mistress. For the past few days, the palace master had been looking for a successor. This way, when the palace master wasn't around, the young palace master could step in. Although the main reason was that the palace master's wife wanted to take the palace master to travel the world. Obviously, with the personality of the palace mistress, once she went out, she would not be able to return for a while. If he did not agree, the palace mistress would definitely be extremely displeased. Under such circumstances, the palace master set aside his determination to find a successor. Now that he had found a successor that the palace master and his wife were so satisfied with, it seemed that there wouldn't be any problems. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen intended to leave after bidding farewell to Yu Linfeng and Di Beichen. However, they did not expect Nan Gongwu to insist on sending them out. Therefore, in the eyes of the Limitless Palace's cultivators, they saw an extremely shocking scene. They actually saw the palace mistress and Bailey Hongzhuang chatting happily. All along, in the hearts of all the Limitless Palace's disciples, there was a person that they absolutely could not provoke, Nan Gongwu. As long as they offended the palace mistress, they would definitely be extremely unlucky. Therefore, they did not dare to have any interactions with the palace mistress. Moreover, they had never seen the palace mistress getting along well with anyone else. However, now they actually saw the palace mistress and this woman having such a good relationship. Chapter 1709. Oh my God, who is this woman? She actually has such a good relationship with the palace master's wife. It seems that her identity is definitely not simple. I thought that the main person who came here this time was the young sect master of Tiangang sect. Fairy, it seems that this woman is the main person who came here. The disciples of Limitless Palace looked at this scene in a daze. Even in Limitless Palace, they rarely saw the palace master and palace master's wife. Now, the palace master and palace master's wife actually came here to send Di Beichen and Luo Pin off. This was already an incredible thing in their eyes. Everyone was confused. They didn't know who this Bailey Hongzhuang was. It could be said that they were extremely curious. Master's wife, we will leave first. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed and said. Yu Linfeng and Nan Gongwu both nodded and said, be careful on the road. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen smiled slightly, then turned and left Limitless Palace. He Mu and the three beasts followed behind. From the beginning to the end, he was still confused. Why did they come to Limitless Palace? Chapter 1710. Looking at Di Beichen's curious look, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly and said, Master's wife is a very interesting person. When she first walked into the conference hall, she gave me a fright. I can see that Master and Master's wife have a very good relationship. Previously, Master's wife almost treated me as a love rival. Fortunately, Master explained it. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. She had never thought of such a misunderstanding before. Although Master's wife wasn't young, her temperament was completely like a child's, which was very cute. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen also revealed a look of realization. He was wondering why Nan Gongwu had an aggressive look when she entered the conference hall. It turned out that this was the case. However, Nan Gongwu's thinking was really strange. Di Beichen looked carefully at Hongzhuang. After thinking carefully, he felt that Nan Gongwu's worry wasn't unreasonable. Yu Linfeng was originally a handsome and confident man. Even though he wasn't young, because of his strong cultivation, he looked extremely young. The life of a cultivator was originally longer than that of an ordinary person. In addition, Hongzhuang was as beautiful as a flower. It was normal for Nan Gongwu to be worried. Palace Master's wife is also a famous beauty in the sect world. However, my wife is so beautiful. It's not strange for Palace Master's wife to be worried. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang with one hand, his face filled with a proud smile. Seeing Di Beichen's glib tongue, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. You're talking nonsense. Di Beichen straightened his face. I'm telling the truth. Who wouldn't say that my wife is beautiful? As he spoke, Di Beichen looked at the three beasties and said, do you think I'm right? Yes. Master is the prettiest. The three beasties immediately exclaimed. They didn't say that just to cooperate with Di Beichen. Di Beichen was telling the truth. So far, they had seen so many cultivators, but the most beautiful one was their master. No one could compare to their master. Seeing the three beasts and Di Beichen singing the same tune, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. She immediately held Di Beichen's arm and said, I'm very happy that you all are praising me. A woman would doll herself up for her lover. Naturally, she hoped that she was the most beautiful in Di Beichen's eyes. Now that she heard Di Beichen's praise, she was in a very good mood. A bright and moving smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite face. The evening's red glow sprinkled on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, making her face even more beautiful and charming. The corners of her eyes and the tips of her eyebrows were filled with joy. When Di Beichen saw Bailey Hongzhuang like this, he couldn't help but be a little infatuated. That fresh and refined smile was deeply imprinted in his heart. To him, there was no woman in this world who could be compared to his wife. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw Di Beichen staring at her without moving, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. Beichen, what's wrong with you? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's question, Di Beichen came back to his senses and said with a smile, my wife is too beautiful. Bailey Hongzhuang's charming face flushed red, but the curve of her lips couldn't help but rise. She never cared about how others saw her. She only cared about how the people she cared about saw her. My wife, it's beyond my expectations that you can get along so well with the palace mistress. Chapter 1711. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen with slight astonishment and said, why? I feel that master's wife is easy to get along with. Some people think so, but many people don't think so. Di Beichen chuckled. He had a certain understanding of Nan Gongwu's character. This kind of person often got along well with people who had affinity with each other. Once they didn't have affinity with each other, it would be useless no matter how much you tried to curry favor with them. However, as long as Hongzhuang could get along well with Nan Gongwu, it would only be better in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. After noticing Di Beichen's eyes, she immediately understood. She immediately chuckled and said, I understand what you mean. Master's wife's character is simple. She doesn't care about anything else. If there's anything she wants to say, she will say it directly. This kind of temper can easily offend people. However, if you get along with her sincerely, it's really good. A cultivator's life was full of twists and turns. There were countless scheming people. In her previous life, when she was the head of an aristocratic family, she had seen a lot of such things. In order to obtain cultivation resources, in order to achieve better results, even if they were cultivators from the same family, the methods they used were still terrifying. Perhaps it was because everyone's thoughts were too deep. That's why Master's wife's straightforward character was disliked. However, as far as she was concerned, the type of person she liked the most was someone who was as sincere as her master's wife. Getting along with her was very simple. There was no need to worry too much. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood his meaning, Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a touch of appreciation. My wife is really smart. You immediately understood your husband's meaning. Bailey Hongzhuang proudly raised her eyebrows. That's natural. You're right. With Palace Master's wife's character, if you get along well, it's naturally excellent. Originally, I was very worried that you and Palace Master's wife wouldn't get along well. After going to Limitless Palace, there might be problems. Now, it seems that I don't need to worry anymore. After confirming this, Di Beichen was in a good mood. What he was most worried about was that Hongzhuang would be bullied. Even if he could become the young Palace Master of Limitless Palace, he would not allow Hongzhuang to be bullied. Sensing the concern in Di Beichen's words, the tenderness in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes deepened. Di Beichen had always been very good to her. She knew this very well. Bailey Hongzhuang held Di Beichen's hand, a happy smile lingering on her beautiful face. Don't worry, I can handle these things. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand tightly and said with a smile, Wife, this is the first time you've taken the initiative to hold my hand. Ever since he got together with Hongzhuang, he had always been the one taking the initiative. In comparison, Hongzhuang was almost always in a passive state. However, today, Hongzhuang actually took the initiative to hold his hand. This was a big improvement. Looking at Di Beichen's astonished look, Bailey Hongzhuang paused for a second, then blinked and said, There will be many times in the future. Yes, there will be many opportunities in the future. They will always be together. He Mu and the three beasties followed behind Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Looking at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's happy appearance, they couldn't help but smile. Chapter 1712. After Bailey Hongzhuang left Limitless Palace, she set off for Tiangang sect. Now, they still needed to go back to Tiangang sect to verify one thing. Not only that, they also needed to go back to Tiangang sect to wait for news from Shitian Pavilion. No matter which one it was very important. Only by confirming these things one step earlier could they save Hongzhuang's parents as soon as possible. As long as this matter was not resolved, their hearts would not be able to relax for a day. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were walking on the road. He Mu and the three beasties were still far away. Although they had been on the road these days, it was still a very beautiful day for Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Because, in the past, they were always on the move for all kinds of things, and often couldn't be together. Now, the two of them could see each other every day, which was already the happiest thing. After thinking for a long time, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that she was getting closer and closer to talking about Boss Gang. She was afraid that some things needed to be said. She hoped that there was enough trust between her and Di Beichen. No matter what, they could face it together, and she didn't want to have any estrangement. Wife, do you have something to tell me? Di Beichen noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang was absent-minded and couldn't help but ask. He had always known his wife's character. Today, he keenly felt that his wife's mood was a little strange, so he immediately asked. Listening to Di Beichen's inquiry, Bailey Hongzhuang paused slightly and said, Beichen, have you ever thought about Han Xiling? With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, Di Beichen's deep eyes quietly flashed a touch of complicated light. Since she has already fallen in the assessment competition, then other things are no longer important. Di Beichen said slowly. Regarding the fall of Han Xiling, his feelings were extremely complicated. All along, He had regarded Han Xiling as his sister. Naturally, he didn't want Han Xiling to fall into such a situation. However, since he and Heng Zhuang were together, Han Xiling really caused a lot of trouble. If Han Xiling was still in the world, he was afraid that the trouble would not stop at all, and Heng Zhuang would also encounter all kinds of dangers. Now that the matter had been settled, he simply did not think about it. When Bailey Heng Zhuang saw that Di Beichen was unwilling to mention this matter, she nodded her head. When I reach Tiangang sect, I believe that the Great Elder will definitely ask me about this matter. Bailey Heng Zhuang's voice was gentle. She believed that even if she didn't say it, Di Beichen would definitely know the origin of all this. Therefore, she didn't need to continue to explain this matter to Di Beichen. She just needed to understand Di Beichen's attitude on how to deal with the Great Elder. The fall of Han Xiling has nothing to do with you. No matter how the Great Elder questions, there is no meaning. Di Beichen's voice was calm and firm. He had also expected this. He had always known how much the Great Elder doted on Han Xiling. He believed that the Great Elder would definitely not be able to accept it after knowing this matter. Once he brought Heng Zhuang back to Tiangang sect, the Great Elder would definitely come to question and even find trouble. However, the Great Elder's arrangement of Han Xiling to enter the competition was already a very excessive move. The Great Elder couldn't get away from the fact that things had developed to this point. Chapter 1713. Earlier, when his master was investigating the matter, he had already investigated this point. Even if he had already thought that Xi Ling would definitely find trouble with Heng Zhuang when she participated in the assessment competition, he did not expect that Great Elder would actually participate in it. Not only that, Great Elder even bribed Wu Yuxian and the others, intending to let Heng Zhuang and the others be completely wiped out in the assessment competition. It was precisely because of this that he was worried to the extreme during the assessment competition for the past 2 years. He was only worried that something would happen to Heng Zhuang. In the past 2 years, he had rarely interacted with the Great Elder. In the past, he never thought that the Elder who had watched him grow up would have such an unbearable scene. It was really unbelievable. All of this was Great Elder's own fault, he could not blame anyone else. For the sake of Heng Zhuang's safe return, he had already suppressed the anger in his heart a lot. If Great Elder still dared to find trouble, then he would not be polite. Seeing that Di Beichen directly confirmed the answer with one sentence, Bailey Heng Zhuang nodded slightly and said, "Okay." From Di Beichen's words, she already understood Di Beichen's answer. It seemed that their thoughts were the same. Di Beichen turned his head and looked at Bailey Heng Zhuang, his handsome face was full of seriousness. "Wifey, you know, I have never been willing to let you suffer any grievances." Di Beichen said slowly. Great Elder has been in Tiangang sect for many years, his status can be said to be deeply rooted. It will take some time to solve this. He would not let Great Elder bully Heng Zhuang like this, no matter who it was, no one could bully Heng Zhuang. Listening to Bailey Heng Zhuang's words, Bailey Heng Zhuang's heart was warm. It did not matter how others treated her, as long as Di Beichen treated her well, it was enough. With Great Elder's status in Tiangang sect, if you rashly take action against Great Elder, I am afraid that it will cause doubts among the disciples of the sect, which will have a certain impact on you. Since I went to Tiangang sect has had a lot of fluctuations. If the Great Elder leaves because of me again, I'm afraid that the entire Tiangang sect's cultivators will not have a good impression of me. Han Xiling has already fallen, and the Great Elder has already been punished. As long as the Great Elder doesn't do anything excessive, this matter will be settled. Bailey Heng Zhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with wisdom and rationality. She had already figured this out long ago. The Great Elder of any sect had a lot of influence in the sect. If he acted rashly, it was very likely that it would cause some problems. Although no one had any evidence to prove that she had killed Han Xiling, she knew that many cultivators would think that she had done it. Ever since she appeared, Han Xiling had already fallen. She believed that this fact had already shocked many cultivators. If the Great Elder was dealt with after Han Shiling's death, she was afraid that in everyone's eyes, she was already an extremely difficult person to get along with. What's more, Han Shiling and Di Beichen had a very good relationship before. Because of her appearance, Di Beichen did this. In everyone's eyes, there was no doubt that Di Beichen was an ungrateful person. She loved Di Beichen so much, how could she be willing to let Di Beichen bear such infamy? Since the Great Elder had already been punished, as long as the Great Elder did not do anything excessive, she felt that everything would not have a big impact. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.